Count it all joy when you fall into various trials. Yeah, we all do that, right? You do that? When something bad happens, you do that? You break your leg. Woohoo! I broke my leg. You lost your job. Yeah, I lost my job. Some of you would cheer. You lose your house. They foreclose on your house. Woohoo! I lost my house. Your wife leaves you. Oh, never mind. Enough wife jokes for one day. We'll just leave that one where it is. So here's what I want to do. I want to look at this. I want to look at how we deal with adversity in life. And so I'm going to throw it up on the screen. And here's when the going gets tough, here's what we need to do. Number 1, embrace adversity. Number 2, exercise patience. Number 3, engage faith. So I want to talk about this first one, because he says, count it all joy when you fall into various trials. You know what he's telling us to do? He's telling us to embrace it. Do you ever hear anybody preaching on embracing adversity? You do not hear that. You will hear people talk about resisting it and enduring it and persevering through it. But who actually tells us to embrace it? Well, James does. And I'm telling you today. And you say, I don't understand. Now, don't get confused here. I'm not telling you to surrender to adversity. I'm not telling you to be defeated by adversity. I'm telling you what you need to do is recognize that it's a part of our journey, and we embrace it and say, how can I ride through this and come through the other end successful? That's what we're talking about. Now, how many of you are old enough to remember Ann Landers, the advice columnist? A bunch of you remember. Syndicated for years and years. She's passed away now. But she had one piece of advice that she said was her most important thing that she would ever give to anybody, and I brought it for you. I'm going to throw it up on the screen. This is what she says. If I were asked to give what I consider the single most useful bit of advice for all humanity, it would be this. Expect trouble as an inevitable part of life. Look it squarely in the eye and say, I will be bigger than you. You cannot defeat me. She said, my best advice to you is to embrace adversity, because it's going to come, and it is an inevitable part of life. And the bigger question is not whether you're going to face adversity or not, but what are you going to do with it when it comes? So I'm going to tell you another story you all know today from Scripture, and again, it's probably the best story to illustrate this, and it's the story of Joseph. Now remember Joseph. Joseph has this dream. He's one of 12 brothers. He's the second youngest. And he's one of these 12 brothers. And he has this dream. And there's these sheaves. And they're bowing down to his sheaf. And he understands the interpretation is that his brothers and his parents are all going to bow down to him. It's a great vision for a young person to have. And so, he was so excited about it, he shares it with his older brothers. Here's my first bit of advice. Be careful who you share your dreams with. Not everybody's going to like it, right? And so anyway, I don't know why he was so stupid, but anyway, he shares this dream for what's going to happen, and his brothers are going to bow down towards him, and his father and mother, and they were incensed. They were not as blessed as he was about it. And so this is what happens. First of all, they threw him into a pit. They threw him into the pit, and they said, well, we'll leave him there, let the lions or tigers come and eat him. So they left him. Then they said, no, that's too cruel. What we'll do is sell him off as a slave. Yeah, that's better. And so they sell him to slave traders, and then the slave traders take him to Egypt, and he's now a slave in Egypt. Are you noticing how things are getting worse and worse and worse for him, not better at this point? And then, of course, he has a little bit of an altercation with his master's wife where she accuses him of rape, which didn't happen. It was falsely accused. And he goes from being a slave to now being a prisoner in a dungeon. Pretty sure these jails in that time of Egypt didn't look like the ones we have now. Pretty sure they didn't have TVs and lazy boys and different things. I think he was in a dungeon. Are you noticing that he's still moving down? It's still getting worse and worse and worse, and there's no signs yet of it getting any better. But here's the most amazing part to me, that when he was still a slave, this is what it says. It's in Genesis 39, verse 2, and it says this, and the Lord was with Joseph, and he became a very successful man. He was a slave. And he became a very successful man. Why? Because the Lord was with him, and because he pressed in and he embraced adversity, and God allowed him to be a successful man even in the midst of that adversity.